Up until recently, Subaru hasn't really gotten into the EV space. Well, the Solterra was first, and now we have this. This is the Uncharted. Yes, that's kind of an interesting name for a vehicle, but this does, in some ways, put Subaru into some uncharted territory. So let's take a look at the car. Let's take a look at what I mean by that and see how we like it. So, some things not so uncharted. Subaru does share a lot of intellectual property, 50-50, with Toyota on their CHR on this car. That means it does ride on Toyota's global TNGA platform, which we absolutely love. Now, I think it actually looks rather compelling. So to me, this is like, it's very similar size to the Crosstrek, but this is sort of more the adult in the room. First things first, I really do like the headlight and the tail light signature look. I do like that Subaru is written out here. And if you look at the profile, I actually really like this fast back roof line. I think it looks really terrific. So you will see too that this wheelbase is a little bit longer than it is on the Crosstrek by about 3 inches. And so the overhangs here, both front and in the rear, are going to be a little bit smaller. And this is that front signature that I like so much. I honestly think this looks really sophisticated. I really like this color paint. This is a signature paint for the Uncharted. This is called Habanero Orange Metallic. And I think it's very appropriately Subaru. When it comes to the inside, it's a little bit more utilitarian, but I do like some of the efforts that Subaru is making in here. First and foremost, I think that they're doing some really interesting things here with texture, with a little bit of color, and with a little bit of contrast here. This is standard on all of the Uncharted trims, so I think it does look nice. You do bump up against some sort of hollow plastics here, but I also understand why they're trying to keep prices on the lower end. When it comes to seat coverings, cloth comes standard on the base model. You do only get StarTex options. You get this two-tone gray, which I think is really nice, or black, but leather is not an option in here. As far as everything else, I think it's quite comfortable. These seats are really nice. One thing I am not super crazy about is this sort of like squircle steering wheel here. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but I think that's something that you could probably do over a little bit of time driving. I do think that the tech package in the Subaru Uncharted is a pretty generous one. You get a 14-inch screen that comes standard. The one thing though that I have noticed is if you're in your navigation system, it does go full screen, but anytime you go anywhere else, you get your climate, your phone, anywhere else that you're kind of looking for, this does come up and make your screen a little bit smaller. Also, there is no active route planning in the nav systems. For an EV, if you're going on a road trip and you're looking for charging stations, that should be the cost of entry. I believe there is one for Subaru coming eventually, but really it should be here now. Also, the digital gauge cluster, it's not super big and it's definitely not very customizable, but it's very visible. It's nice to see. It actually is above the steering wheel, which explains the squircle, which I'm not super crazy about, but the visibility is excellent. You're not like sort of dodging underneath to try and see it, so I do appreciate the placement there. I also really appreciate this dual side-by-side wireless charging pads, so you don't need to fight with the person next to you. And it's grippy, but only because this is like dealing with this kind of, it's a little bit grippier than the hard plastic. So that's not really going to move around, which to me, wireless pad needs to have some grip. So remember I said that the wheelbase had gotten a little bit longer. Well, that means that the second row space is also going to be a little bit better. So this is the ideal seating position for a passenger that's about 6 feet tall. And I do have plenty of room for my legs. Certainly, even though this is a fastback roofline, I also have some room up here. I have a long torso. So for me, this is very comfortable in here. And again, because you don't have the transmission tunnel, there's a flat floor. You could put someone in here. I wouldn't put them in here for a very long road trip, but if you do go up on the trim levels, you have some plugs back here for charging. You also have seat heating and vents, which is always a really nice touch, so you don't forget about your rear seat passengers. Every single Uncharted gets an automatic power liftgate, which is really terrific. You also do get a little bit more cargo space. So you've got 23 cubic feet of cargo space back here, and yeah, a little bit more than the Crosstrek. So plenty of room to store things, and I just feel like this should be the cost of entry now with any car you have. Subaru's decided to do something a little unusual for them when it comes to the drivetrain. They're offering this as a front-wheel drive as well as an all-wheel drive version. Now, when it comes to horsepower, that front-wheel drive is going to be single motor, and you're looking at 221 horsepower. I'm not going to have an opportunity to drive that model. They don't have any here. From what Subaru is saying, it's coming in limited numbers. I'm not 100% sure if they're convinced that anyone's going to buy it. So it's an option. I'm glad it's an option. But when it comes to the dual motor option, you're looking at 338 horses. Now, to me, that sounds like an awful lot, especially when you're talking about an EV. So you've got instant torque thanks to the motors. You also have a fairly light car here in the Uncharted. It clocks in curb weight at 4,500 pounds. That is not a whole lot for an electric vehicle, and we're going to see right now just how fun 338 horsepower can be in this little thing. It's also raining.
But it grips.
But it really grips. So you're looking at a 0 to 60 time of 4.7 seconds. Now, in a Subaru, that's pretty impressive. We're driving in some twisty turns and some nice roads right now, and this thing has a lot of poise. It handles itself very nicely. It's very composed. So yes, there is plenty of fun to be had in the Uncharted. When it comes to EVs, you're looking at a lot of responsibility when it comes to your range. And that's where the dual motor definitely takes a little bit of a hit over the front wheel drive single motor. So range numbers in that single motor, you're looking at 308 miles approximately. But when it comes to range on the dual motor, you're looking at 287 on the Sport and then 273 miles on the GT. That GT does come with 20-inch wheels, and there are some other components on there that make it a little bit heavier, hence that difference in range. But I always want to see that 300 number when it comes to an EV. To me, that should be the cost of entry. Regardless of whether you go for the front-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive Uncharted, both of them get a 74.7 kilowatt-hour battery, and they do have a preconditioning mode where you can set up and get that battery up to optimum conditions in order to charge it as efficiently as possible. Now, when it comes to charging, the Uncharted does come standard with an NACS charge port, which means that you are able to charge at Tesla supercharger stations up to 150 kilowatts. That means going from 10% to 80% in about 28 minutes, which again, it's kind of on the slower side. I would like to see that just a little bit improved. When it comes to just normal driving of the Uncharted, it's a very comfortable experience. I mean, nothing really stands out in particular. I like the way that the suspension is tuned. It doesn't feel overly one way or the other. It's funny because they said that it was tuned specifically to feel like a Subaru, and I'm not 100% sure that I could get into this versus the CHR and really feel what a Subaru tuned EV feels like. I'd be curious to do it, but whatever that feeling is, it's highly drivable. You do get 8.2 inches of ground clearance here, and if you use that in conjunction with X mode, you do also have an opportunity to do some fun things off-road. I'm not sure that I would take it on anything where there were some major rocks or any kind of obstacle that kind of exceeded like a couple of inches, something small. But do know that in X mode you can have a little bit of fun. The one thing I will say though is I really wish that in X mode the front facing camera would stay on just a little bit longer or over going 7 miles an hour, because there is nothing more irritating than when you're mid-ascent and you're trying to see what's kind of on the other side of you, but view is impeded because all you're seeing is sky and your camera suddenly turns into your home screen. You do have some other drive modes to play with on the Uncharted. You have a power mode, which does give you a little bit of a goose of power, always fun, and you can feel a difference there, which I always appreciate. There's an eco mode, which doesn't necessarily feel really like it's hindered or impeding, but obviously you're just a little bit more efficient. And then there's a normal mode, which straddles those two very evenly and nicely. There is regenerative braking also in the Uncharted. You do have 4 levels. One is just absolutely nothing, and the 4th level is not anywhere near one pedal driving. So if you are looking for something where that is an option, this is not going to be the vehicle where you're going to find that. But I will say this, I do like the brake feel. I think it's very measured. I think it's very comfortable. It's very confidence inspiring, and it's perfectly adequate for even the speed that you get in that 338 horsepower. You don't feel like it's lacking in that department, which is great, especially if you're going from 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Visibility for me it's okay. Over my right shoulder, there is a fairly significant thick C-pillar back there, which I expect. The CHR was always the same way in that you kind of had that sort of looming. Because it is an EV, also it is a very nice, quiet, and comfortable ride in here. I do hear a little bit of road noise, but it's not something that I find overly intrusive. Certainly none of the noise that you're getting in here is going to do anything like interrupt a conversation. And I really do appreciate how Subaru is being much more mindful about how the interiors of their vehicles sound. I will say too, the seats are very comfortable. If I had the ability to go on a long road trip in this without having to take too many breaks, when it came to charging, I could do it very comfortably and very easily. Overall, if a friend of mine asked me, gosh, I'm looking for a small crossover SUV that's an EV, what would you recommend? I think that based on the driving of this and how amenable it is, I would 100% recommend that someone take a look at the Subaru Uncharted. The Uncharted comes in 3 trim levels. The premium front-wheel drive is the base model. That starts at $36,445. That includes destination charge. Now, even though that is a base model, it does come very well appointed. Standard fare includes 18-inch wheels, a standard power liftgate and all-weather package, headlight washers, a digital key, ambient interior lighting, USB-C charge ports in the front and the second row, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and a 7-inch digital gauge cluster. The Sport trim gets all-wheel drive and gets that X mode and has a starting price of $41,245. That also includes destination. It comes with a heated steering wheel, star text seat coverings, a 360-degree view monitor, as well as lane change assist and traffic jam assist, in addition to the other standard safety features. The top trim level, the GT, gets a $45,795 price tag and gets an upgraded Harman Kardon speaker setup, an optional 2-tone paint, 20-inch wheels, heated rear seats, just not the middle one, and a digital rear view mirror with a HomeLink system for your garage door opener. If you're cross-shopping, then the Toyota CHR is as direct a competitor as you can get. Also, the Kia Niro EV and excellent Nissan Leaf are great options in this sandbox. We all find ourselves in a little bit of uncharted territory when it comes to electric vehicles and other powertrains. Whether it's government regulations or infrastructure concerns, there are a lot of questions. But if you know what you're after and it's a small EV that gets competitive range, has attractive styling, and a reasonable starting price that's also fun to drive, well, maybe you should set your compass for the Subaru Uncharted.